How are you thinking about transitioning what you learn in this SMB world and working with Amazon, how you're going to be applying it, but how do you recommend that the rest of us are applying it in an ABM model as well?
Some folks come in with a playbook of like, "Hey, this is exactly how I'm gonna go and rebuild the team and all of that. I've done this over and over again." And maybe because I've changed, like, just industries and changed the types of customers that I go after, it's very much like, "Hey, how do I go in and just really look at where is the organization need the most? Is everyone talking about the product in the same way? How are they talking about the product? Do they have a clear understanding of the value? Can they actually talk about that? Can they quantify that?" Because if you can't talk about it as a company, how can your customers do it? So there's that element of it. How am I thinking about which channels they have? What's that mix look like? So there's some things that I look at and say, okay, where does the organization need me the most? And how do I lean into that particular area? And that can change depending on customer and company. I'd say that there are probably some considerations that say maybe apply overall. And so one of them might be, as I'm thinking about it, how do I think about channel diversification? That's a clear one that I've learned over time. Going into all these different things, it's so easy to say, hey, we're really good at our core channels, whether that's going to be your Google, your Meta, your email, and just lean on those. What I've learned is it's so easy for something to go wrong with one of those channels, whether it's an algorithm that changes, it's completely out of whack, or something else that happens. So, how are you constantly testing into new channels to learn what works and what works for your customer set? So, yes, rely on those, but it's constantly building up more competencies in other areas. So, I feel like that remains true no matter what. I think coming up again with that messaging I talked about is really how are you articulating your value, making sure that you have clear ways to and quantify it. That's a whole exercise that's consistent no matter what. And then I think what I would also say is the way that you build for modularity, and the way that I say it is how do you build to scale? There's obviously a technological component to that of, okay, I need to build a program that can support 50 customers, but tomorrow the future could support 1,000,000 customers. There's a technical way to build that. I think this is me with the marketing ops background coming in, but there's also a way to like, how do I think about if I'm going to go after a particular value pillar, I'm going to go after a particular segment. How do I use that as a rallying cry for maybe a team or just me or just a small group of people, especially when you're starting out, and you really go deep in that area. So that gives you a chance to build the content there, learn the kind of the rhythms, learn what works, what doesn't, do the testing with your sales team, test the messaging, test what's out there. It's really just a learning area. And then keep that as, hey, now this is evergreen. I'm not going to turn it on, but now I'm going to go and shift next quarter to something else and really keep building and building. And that's how you build from scratch is that you're always building on top of something, so it becomes more additive versus like, "Hey, I'm switching every other month," or "I'm trying to do all the things at once," 'cause you just can't do that many things at well, especially when you are by yourself or with a small team.